Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1988's She Wolves of the Wasteland. Look at that beautiful cover art right there. She Wolves of the Wasteland, also known as Phoenix the Warrior. This is, I believe, the only way to get this film, and it's put out by Echo Bridge Entertainment DVD. This is the back of the DVD here. This particular DVD was put out in 2007. This was put out by Echo Bridge Entertainment in 2007, bare bones release. And I believe this is the only way to get the film. On the front cover art, it says Women Rule. Here it is, folks. Look at that amazing cover art. We're going to look at this film tonight, right now. We have a character in this film that collects ears. Yes, cuts off ears and collects them. We have an area in this film called the burial ground, where there are skeletons and corpses in front of broken television sets, and where creatures in this burial ground use TV guides as Bibles and talking about television shows from the 80s and utilizing the names of television shows and the process of the airwaves in the sky as their scripture and as their holy land. Let's look at She Wolves of the Wasteland. Those were two little nuggets right there, but this is a film that is really has the vibes of, I mean, we have dune buggies in here and ATVs and just kind of the deserts, mountains, desert. It has some Blade Runner vibes to it. It also has, obviously, just this deserted future apocalyptic. There's only women here, or women are the what is left in society, and men are kind of what the future holds. And there is an old woman who almost is God for the human race in this film. Um, we have kind of a sperm bank of sorts. We have the birth of a man child. We have an area called the Badlands. We have women, warrior women, in scantily clad. There are fight zones. There are automatic weapons. There are wars between different groups of women. And there are shacks made of steel. And it is this kind of, as this alternate title says, a wasteland, a desert wasteland, where there are stories taking place within this wasteland, revolving around the future of whatever the human race will become. And it is in this film predominantly women. Let's look at She Wolves of the Wasteland from 1988. And it says Women Rule, also known as Phoenix the Warrior. Let's look at this film. First and foremost, we're going to look at the music for this movie. The music is synthesizer based, without a doubt, and it has the vibes. It has some details of guitar work in there as well, but it is 80s synth based, and it has the vibes of fantasy, action, and horror. It has those vibes, and the film itself plays with those vibes as well. There's just there's a main theme that goes throughout the film as well, and it just has a late night exploitation, sexploitation 80s vibe. Mostly just an exploitation vibe. You know, late at night, that old show called USA Up All Night. This definitely feels like a movie that would have played on there. It might have. I don't know if anybody knows if it did on that popular show in the 90s called USA Up All Night. Please let me know in the comments below. But it has that vibe. Um, and there's music throughout. There's music all throughout the film. But we also have touches in the music of some choir, some scary choir elements that are in that area that I mentioned previously called the burial ground, where it almost has these tinges of a horror score, and that is kind of the tinges of kind of a horror environment and some torture. Um, Now, you know, this is such an interesting film. The film just kind of blasts off as soon as you push play into this alternate reality, this alternate world, um, where we have, you know, warrior women, savage warrior women, and we have them as they're violent, they're surviving on the land. There is no civilization any longer. Um, you know, there are no zombies in this film, but it almost feels, like it could have been after a zombie apocalypse or something. But it's more than that because the human race in some ways seems like it's been annihilated previously, and now this is what we have here. Feel and style, um, we have definitely a vibe of exploitation, sexploitation, horror, fantasy, some creatures, um, kind of warring factions. We have um, there's fighting and hand-to-hand combat and gunplay and lots of dune buggies and four-wheelers on rocky lands, mountainous lands, desert winds constantly blowing, sand everywhere. It must have been a nightmare to film. Wild, sexy outfits on all of the female cast of the film. Um, we have a section where a little kid is in a cage. We have a god creature of sorts connected to tubes into her head. We have all different weird and wild costumes in the film, and this is really has a strong late night vibe to it. We do have some topless nudity in the film, but in these wild waterfall sequences and some dancing, and what would the prostitution business be like if there were only women around? Well, there would be female prostitutes to females. Um, but the sexuality of the film is really in the outfits and is in the legs, the thighs, the aspect of men being uncharted territory. If there's a man around, um, you know, there's a level of sexuality there where they want to explore it. They don't know where to go with it. There's a really strong low budget vibe to this film, low budget exploitation vibe to this movie. This is what their outfits kind of look like in some form or fashion. And they are using some automatic weapons. There's some great gun battles in here. The sounds of the guns I really, really loved in this movie. But this is trash, pure utter trash in the best way. If you know my videos, if you know anything about me, you know that trash to me is a positive word. It is not a negative word. I use it as a positive. I'm not even using it as a positive within a negative, if that makes any sense. I use it completely as a positive in my definition of it, and basically the way other people, would call it in a negative, I would call it in a positive, pure positive. This is exploitation, low budget trash. 80s, but it's interesting because to me it also had a very strong early 90s vibe to it. I was almost surprised to know that it was made in the 80s. It has like an early 90s vibe to it, to me. Now, the lead girl in this film playing Phoenix the Warrior is actually the cop's daughter in Halloween 4. So that's pretty awesome. And it was shortly around that time as well, just for this film being in 1988. Her name is Kathleen Kinmont. Um, so some pretty wild stuff there that she's the kind of the lead in this movie. Um, so we look at this. I also believe she's in the movie Hard Bodies as well, the first one. I believe she's in that as well, which I'll be looking at in the future on this page. But this is She Wolves of the Wasteland. Women battling. And there's a really weird write-up on the back of this here, but I think it's worth hearing. What do you get when you combine big hair, big guns, big personalities, and a serious lack of wardrobe? She Wolves of the Wasteland, a post-apocalyptic classic that features women, lots and lots of women, who leave little to the imagination as they battle each other in various junkyards and gravel pits to determine the fate of the entire world. Leave your brain behind for this shamelessly sinful sexploitation romp with a plot you won't remember, but plenty of eye candy you won't forget. It's an interesting write-up. It's a bit demeaning, but it's also positive, I guess, in many regards. And I thought it was interesting to read. Now, the ending and the climax of the film is so bizarrely quick and, as some would call, anticlimactic, and but at the same time, for me, it just totally works within this whole film, and it's so bizarre. The ending is so bizarre, and how it unfolds, um, and as quickly as it unfolds. And this is She Wolves of the Wasteland. What a movie. 1988. I don't know if it's still in print or what, but Echo Bridge Entertainment put it out on DVD. I bought this for really cheap about 9 years ago. So here we go, folks. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like She Wolves of the Wasteland. Please feel free to check out all my other reviews in this YouTube page, and also check out my own personal films by Googling Apartment 1014 Films, and that's youtube.com/poopy diarrhea. Thank you so much, and have a great night.